Change your diet, change your life, change the planet.
Hey, Julia here from Awesome Healthy, talking to you from the Woodstock Festival 2012. I'm with Tien van Noten and we're going to talk about emotional eating. Tim, welcome, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You know what happens when you go raw? You strip yourself of everything and you become really raw and your emotions become raw and it all just like emerge into the surface and people find themselves overwhelmed and they just want to eat and eat and eat and eat and eat. They can cope with the amount of emotions that were stagnant within them and they all come to the surface to cleanse. So let's talk about this, emotional eating.
Absolutely.
Why does it happen?
Why does it happen? Why does the sun shine? It's the only constant in human psychology, is that we're going to be fighting with our emotions, or at least that's the way it appears. But if you look at the word raw, for instance, it means to cut down to the bone, to rip away the flesh. That's what the term actually means, to be raw, to be tender. And in French, for instance, it's cru, C-R-U. And many raw restaurants in the United States and elsewhere.
Crudo in Espanol.
Yeah, crudo, exactly. And this is where the word cruelty comes from.
Right.
So when you think about it, raw meaning, torn, the flesh being torn, or cruelty, it's a horrible word to use to describe supposedly a very positive diet. And essentially that's what happened. You're ripping yourself bare. You're tearing away all that cultural protection, all that cultural softness and comfort that we surround ourselves with, whether it be technology or food or delusion about living in the perfect place and having on-demand this, that, and the other, like life is perfect because I have a satellite dish and a big car and a giant house and kids that I never see because they've got all the technology. And you strip all that away and you're left with the raw essence. You strip it down to the bone. And the mind, in a way, does see that as a cruel act. You're taking something away rather than adding something into your life. Because we grow up in a culture where we need to constantly add things. I need this, I need this, I need this. I won't be happy until I get this. Nobody ever says, I won't be happy until I get rid of all this, unless they're talking about weight. But that's a different issue too. That's literally about tearing away at your own body. I mean, that's another, and our mind fights that as well. So I believe that the biggest reason that people have emotional issues when they make this kind of dietary change is the fact that they're taking things away from themselves. And very little of the brain is actually mature and adult. Our prefrontal cortex, which doesn't even really fully develop until someone is about the age of 25 years old. So most people below that age, although they think they have a rational mind, they think they have an adult mind, it really hasn't fully developed yet. But even for those of us that are of an advanced age, we're tricked into believing that we have all the answers, and we're tricked into believing that we know everything, and we're smart, and we're on the right path, and I know my body, and I know I need animal protein, and I know I need dairy, and all these things that we know without any evidence. But when you strip all that away, and you come right back to the essence, most of our brain is a 2-year-old. It's a child. It's a primitive brain. The brain stem is reptilian, then we move into a little bit more advanced mammalian brain, then we move into a primate brain, and finally, way up here in the front, we have this modern man brain, or woman brain. The female brain is more advanced than the male, that's obvious. But yes, right? So
Obviously.
we do most of our thinking, and we create most of our identity with the smallest part of our brain. But the vast majority of our brain is frightened and scared and worried about predators, and worried about floods and fires, and worried about starvation, and it's worried about so many things, and it's a child. And when you see a child and somebody takes away its toy, what's going to happen? The child's going to cry and freak out and throw a temper tantrum. And the vast majority of our brain is designed exactly the same way, and that's what it does. When you're removing foods from your diet, you're taking away the toys of this primitive child brain. And it's like, Mommy, I want my toy back. Somebody took my toys. He took my pizza. He took my French fries.
And spaghetti gone.
Yeah, so what do? we beat ourselves up, we make ourselves wrong, we call it cheating. I've got this thing called a craving, and I want to cheat, and I want to go off the wagon, and I need to be strict, and I need to be dogmatic, and I need a support group. When really what you need to do is be a loving parent to yourself. Like, what does a parent do when they see a 2-year-old that's crying over something? Well, they can do two things. They can yell at the kid, which is not going to work. Or they can say, oh, sweetie, what happened? I'm sorry, and give them a little love and affection. We need to do that with ourselves. So we need to use this advanced brain up here to comfort the big primitive brain back here, because it's just a scared kid. It's reactive. And
love is really at the core of everything.
Yeah,
with
just
love you can just
do
go.
anything.
You can do anything and achieve anything. So it's
And what happens when you fight a child? What happens when you argue with a child that's screaming? More screaming. What happens when you love a child and give them affection and, support them?
or an adult who's upset and you begin to accuse them. Why did you do that?
Yeah.
Why didn't you tell me that? Why didn't you go and do this instead of? Is there a reason? Perhaps there's something that I can help you with.
We get caught up in the story. We get caught up in the emotion, and then we use our advanced brain to create a story about those emotions. We look for blame. We look, okay, this was the result. Well, who caused it?
Yes.
What's the problem? How do I fix it? How do I place blame? And how do I make myself feel better about it? Oh, food will work.
Yes.
So it's just, we really don't understand how the brain works. I mean, there are people that do understand how the brain works, but the vast majority of us never learn this. We're thrown into the world and we learn mathematics and we learn a language and we learn literature and we learn, the sciences, but we don't learn how to deal with our own minds. Nobody teaches us this. So we fight and we struggle, and it's really sad, rather than giving ourselves the comfort that we really need. So we replace that with food. Food gives us comfort. Food never talks back. Food doesn't yell at us. Food doesn't spank us. Food doesn't reject us.
Once your belly's full, you kind of feel settled and comfortable. Yeah. You no longer have to think. You no longer have to connect with your emotions. You just go.
Yeah.
And everything's good.
And if you look at the...
And then you wake up and of course the cycle repeats.
Yes. But if you look at the physiology of your digestive system, your intestinal, the entire digestive system is actually the outside of your body. It's not the inside of your body. The food is not technically inside your body until it crosses the intestinal wall, and then it's in the bloodstream. Now it's in your body. But the hole that starts here and ends down there, that whole process is outside of the body. So it's skin. Mm-hmm. It's literally skin, very similar to the epithelial cells on your skin. Your intestines are very similar. They come from the same cells. And when you caress somebody's skin, it causes a chemical to be released called oxytocin. And oxytocin has been called the love drug. Mothers, when they're breastfeeding, the act of, the child breastfeeding causes oxytocin release in the mother and in the child, and also massage and caress, and makes people bond to each other and feel good. Well, our intestines, because they're skin cells, can also release oxytocin. So when you eat highly refined foods that are really smooth, when you eat very fatty foods, these fatty, smooth, soft foods are like massaging the inside of your intestines, which releases oxytocin, and it comforts you. It makes you feel good. You literally bond with your food. But fruits and vegetables are very fibrous and they're harsh, so instead of massaging, they kind of scratch. Oh, you need your fiber. Well, you're scratching the intestines, and that doesn't feel as good. That's not comforting. So we go for the smooth, processed, fatty, goopy food that makes us feel, food is loving me. It's like mommy rubbing my head and putting me to sleep. It's the same thing. So we have a brain in here as well.
Yeah, so I guess the solution, if we just talk about the solution to people who find themselves in the cycle of craving and hiding their emotions by eating heavy foods, let that be raw foods or cooked foods. Because raw foods, talking about nuts and seeds and pâtés and high-fat raw diets, same thing. So the solution is love.
The solution is love, and what that looks like in a practical sense of the word, loving choices, which are additive choices. Love is about bringing things into your life. Fear is about taking things out of your life. So instead of saying, I cannot have pizza, I cannot have a hamburger, I cannot have French fries, you say, I am going to have a banana. I'm going to have a green juice. I'm going to have a piece of celery. I'm going to have a mango. You keep adding things into your life so you feel richer. You're enriching your life rather than reducing what's available to you. You're actually increasing what's available.
And of course, each time you say, I cannot have, you keep recreating. So
Yes.
each time you think, I cannot have pizza, you recreate that pizza over and over again. So just changing your focus and switch to banana.
Yeah.
And just next time you think of pizza, just pick a banana, and eventually it becomes a habit.
Yeah, the more things you add into your life, the less room there is for that pizza. And when you start eating these new foods, you actually feel good while you're eating them and after you're eating them. And then you're like, ooh, I like this feeling. People will ask me, don't you miss pizza? Don't you miss cheeseburgers? What I would really miss is the feeling that I have right now if I were to go back and eat those foods. I would miss that much more than I miss pizza. I like feeling the way I do. I don't miss the chronic fatigue. I don't miss the constant just the food coma, the misery, just medicating myself with food to get through the day because I hated my life.
Yes.
Now I would miss the feeling of being alive and vibrant and moving through the world quickly. Some people call that training or being an athlete. I call it moving through the world quickly. And it's fun.
That's beautiful, Tim. Thank you very much. It was
You're
really
welcome.
eye-opening and inspirational, and really grateful. So, thank you.
Yeah, add
Once
to your
again,
life. Don't take
Yes.
away, add to it. Make it bigger.
Live lovingly. Thank you, and see you again shortly. Ciao.